This is the audio version of How Can the Average Guy Succeed Trading Options, found at optionsizzle.com. In sports, there is a natural progression to the elite level. For example, in baseball, the transition might go something like this: Little League, Babe Ruth League, American Legion, high school, college, single A minor leagues, double A minor leagues, triple A minor leagues, and then Major League Baseball. As you progress to each stage, the competition gets stiffer and only the best of the best move on. According to High School Baseball Web, less than 3 out of 50 high school baseball players will move on to play college ball. Out of that elite group of young athletes, only 11 out of those 100 will get drafted by a pro team, and that's just getting drafted. There's no guarantee they'll ever play a game in the big show or even stick around. Now, we go back to option investing. What is the natural progression? Well, there really isn't one. Sure, some Wall Street firms might hire Ivy League college grads as traders because they might be competitive, think quickly on their feet, and are good at math. But there's no guarantee that they will be successful at beating the markets. Some of the best traders I met when I was on the floor working at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange didn't even have a college degree or above average IQs, but were street smart. They knew how to manage risk and take profits while keeping their emotions in check when the heat was on. You see, in baseball, there's a certain skill and physical traits that make a player desirable to prospect. In fact, they've got scouts monitoring the progress of players at an early age. However, when it comes to options trading and investing, there's none of that. How do you know when you're a successful option investor? Well, one parameter might be when you start beating the returns of 95% of the mutual funds and hedge funds that underperform the market. However, comparing yourself against others will never get you far. The reason is because you never know how much money or risk they are putting on to achieve their results. There is no little league for options investing, not even minor league. We are all competing in the same markets amongst the best traders and institutional investors in the world. Think about that for a second. Pretty wild, right? You know what else? I get a ton of emails from new option investors asking me about approaches and in-depth courses I teach. They usually want to know if they follow my techniques, will they be able to make $1,000 a week or some other arbitrary number? Or they might have heard success stories of other investors and are wondering how long it will take them to achieve that level of financial freedom if they learn from me. Some are even more hopeful, like, if I learn the Sizzle method, will I be able to make 3 to 1 on my option investments? They might as well be asking, how long do you think it will take for me to consistently hit a 90-mile-per-hour curveball? Earlier, I mentioned there is no little league for options investing. However, you can get big league experience without doing too much damage to your account. This can easily be done by opening a trading account and starting off real slow. Sure, you can also try the demo account. However, there's one problem with demo account trading, and that's that most people don't take it seriously. They end up doing stuff that they wouldn't do if real money was on the line. Personally, I don't really care much or believe in demo accounts. I believe when you have $1 in the game, you will learn more than using play money, which I discuss in more detail in The Ugly Side of Unusual Options Activity, found at optionsizzle.com. With that said, for most, it's best to start off investing with real money. However, it's got to be very small amounts because you're bound to make a number of mistakes. I know this will be difficult for you because I know you want the fast money, those exponential returns that you read about online or see on TV. Write this down. You don't jump from the little leagues to the big leagues overnight. The statistic 0.5% of high school baseball players get drafted to play professional ball, and most of them play in the minors for a couple years before getting called up to the big show. There's absolutely nothing wrong with starting off small. If you actually want to have a higher chance of making this work, this is a must. You might think your friends and your family might pick on you because you're trading small. Don't let that get to you. They will actually admire your approach because most will not do this. Just remember, it takes time to develop into a successful options investor, and you will want another income source coming in for you while you learn your craft. Plus, you'll feel a lot better when you make big mistakes and it only costs you a small amount of your capital. It's part of paying your dues, which everyone pays. Without a doubt, the most effective learning comes from placing small trades in a real money account. It's better than any book or course you'll ever take. One reason experience is the best teacher is that option investing success requires that you have your emotions in check. Unless you're in a trade, how will you know how you feel emotionally? Imagine reading a book about falling in love. Even if you read about the emotions and one's experiences when you're in love, you'll never know how it feels until you actually experience it. When professional athletes warm up, their mechanics are almost perfect. However, things change when fatigue settles in and the pressure of the game intensifies. Sure, you'll need to have some basic knowledge of how options work, but you don't have to spend a ton of money to get that education. In fact, there's a lot of great free resources and practical information found on OptionSizzle.com that is applicable in today's market environment. Not only does OptionSizzle offer the basics, but our articles cover topics from strategies that I've tweaked over the years through a painful and costly process of trial and error. With that said, as you're learning the basics and trading a small account, by reading the articles, you can also build a framework to further strengthen your knowledge. Today, option investors have access to the same technology and analytic tools the pros use. The markets are more liquid than ever and commission rates have dropped significantly over the years. This is by far the best time in history to be an option investor. In fact, one could argue that the playing field has never been this equal between the retail and professional trader. To make your learning easier, I have categorized some of our best content on this article found at OptionSizzle.com. I'm not going to go through all the articles here, but if you want to have a resource of all the content that we have, it can be found at OptionSizzle.com. From little leagues to the pros, each level has something in common, and that is coaching. Think of OptionSizzle as your personal trainer in the options market. We can guide and show you what I believe works, but you still have to put in the work to reap the benefits. My goal is simple: to get you to your destination faster and more efficiently. Ponder on this. A pro ball player might have a hitting coach, fielding coach, a nutritionist, strength and conditioning coach. They utilize all these instructors to help improve and to be the best at their craft. However, when it comes to investing and trading, individual investors feel they don't need any guidance or they can figure it out on their own. Sure, you might be able to, but it might take you a long time and there's no guarantee of success. The knock on people like myself is that if I was so good at my craft, why would I spend time teaching others? For me, the answer is easy. When I was 15, my dream was to become a professional wrestler. I began training with my uncle in Chicago. I trained from the age of 15 to 19. For me, it was very serious. I paid $2,000 at the time to the school in Chicago to train me that was called PCW. I joined a circuit, and if I was lucky, I would get paid $10. But I was given the chance to wrestle in front of a live audience. My dream was to make it to the WWF, which is now the WWE. Of course, the WWF was like the Major League of Wrestling at the time. However, there was no clear pathway back then on how to reach that level. Most wrestlers in my area worked the circuit in the Midwest hoping to get discovered. But it was tough. Promoters would take advantage of young wrestlers and not pay them anything. All I wanted to do was travel and wrestle in front of a crowd, to hear the boos and cheers from the audience. Sadly, I realized there was no clear pathway. I witnessed the wrestlers I looked up to getting washed up, still chasing the dream. It became clear to me that becoming a big-name wrestler like The Rock, named Dwayne Johnson, required a lot of luck and hard work. Most of the indie wrestlers struggled to make it financially. By the age of 19, I was going through growing pains and confidence issues. I was so insecure that I became scared to wrestle in front of a crowd. With that said, I left my first dream and continued to work at a pizza place which I was delivering at. One day my boss, and still a great friend, told me, if I wasn't doing this, I think it would be cool if I was a stockbroker. That was my aha moment. Still being young, I felt I could do this for both of us. I began doing some research on what stockbrokers do, and of course, the research came from watching movies like Wall Street and Boiler Room. I won't spoil the story for you, But if you like, you can read the rest on how I got my big break here, found at OptionSizzle.com. I take a lot of pride in helping individual investors, even though I know by dividing my time between trading and teaching, I might be sacrificing gains that could be realized by focusing solely on trading my personal account. When I was a stockbroker, I remember talking to individual investors like yourself on the phone and them not having a clue on how to use options successfully. This bothered me, so at that point, I was driven to show them how options leverage could be used to smooth out returns and structure high probability trades with less capital. Unfortunately, the firm I was with at the time was more concerned about generating commissions than helping investors out. My inclination to help others and not being employed by a firm eventually led me to create OptionSizzle. Wealth is great, and I'm on the same journey, but so is goodwill and a legacy. I understand there's no clear pathway to becoming successful as an options investor. The subject is very near and dear to my heart, as I've experienced the same thing when I chased my dream to become a professional wrestler. The reality is, OptionSizzle is something I want to do, not something I need to do. Of course, people will question my intentions or knock my methods, which I teach. That's okay. I know from the emails that I receive that there are a lot of grateful people who are benefiting from the OptionSizzle articles. There's no minor leagues in the financial markets, and there's no guarantee in life. However, I believe that everyone who puts in a wholehearted effort deserves the opportunity to be successful. If you're struggling with options and you're on the verge of giving up your dream, let's first talk. Let's see if I can help you get back on track and in the right direction. By the way, how is the journey going for you? I know for some it's been difficult, but I love to hear how you're doing and what we here at OptionSizzle can do better to assist you. I'll be hanging out in the comments section below. P.S. Because I was so young looking at the time, I wore a mask like you see Lucha Libre wrestlers wear. My wrestling name was El Blanco Raton, and when I came out, I flicked tortilla shells at the crowd saying, "Que es tortilla?" You can leave a comment on this article found at OptionSizzle.com, and you can find the article and the resources for this article at OptionSizzle.com.